A Conversation with Mother. Today is August 18th, 2017.
My mother died on August 18th, you know.
Yes. What year?
1953, the year you were born.
No, I was born
No,
in
the year
54.
you...
Close.
The year before you were born. No, actually, she told me that I was pregnant. I did not know I was pregnant.
Mm.
And it was you.
Yes.
She was born in August too, wasn't she?
Who, Lily? She was born in March.
No, your mother.
No,
When was
her
she
birthday was July 8th.
Oh. And she just turned what age?
43, I think.
Oh, jeez. And she had a stroke.
Yeah, cerebral hemorrhage.
And she was in the hospital for a little while.
2 weeks.
Oh.
Well, she had really high blood pressure though, didn't she?
Yeah.
So when she was born, where was that? Where was it?
She was born in Norwich, Connecticut.
Oh. In a house?
Yeah, everybody was born in a house. I was born in a house. I was born in my grandparents' house at 808 East Main Street.
Good Lord. So
Which
who
is-
came?
Who came?
Yeah.
Dr.
Three wise men.
This doctor that was there in Meriden for years and years, and I can't, Dr. Stoddard
Wow.
was his name. And he came in the middle of a snowstorm, and I was born 5 o'clock in the morning.
Of course.
And how old was your mother when she had you?
I don't know, she was probably 21.
Oh,
She was born in 1908.
okay, and so 29, so she was 18?
No,
No.
she was not 18. I think she was 20 when she got married.
See the math geniuses in this.
Well, wait, you were 25, 24 that year. And she
The
was
year I was
42?
born?
The 24 the year she died.
Yeah.
You were 24 because you were 25 when I was born the next year.
Oh, was it?
So if you were 24, she couldn't have been.
She
must
was
have been
born
18.
in 1908. She
Yeah.
died in 1953. So 8 from 13 is 5.
Five.
She must have been 45.
So she was
Maybe she had
45
just
when-
turned 45.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize she was that old.
So she was 20 when she had you then, because you were, or 20, or 19.
So I was right.
Yeah,
She was 19 when I was born?
yes.
I didn't know that.
Well, now
Hey,
you're
maybe
learning
you should be
things
over
too.
here.
That's right.
We're getting
Who's going to figure out these things?
I know.
And you had 2 brothers.
My 2 brothers, Louis and Roy Matt.
Mhm.
Louis was 2 years younger than me, and Roy Matt was 5 years younger than me.
And there was one in between those who died.
No, that was after I got married. She had
Robert.
She
Robert.
had another one after you were married?
Mhm.
She was only.
That was pretty,
She was only.
yeah, she was 40 something, yeah.
Yeah.
So he died from what?
He was just born dead. He was not quite
Oh.
full term.
Oh, Oh, okay. I thought that one was earlier.
She told me she wanted me to go. I had to go. I just had to go get him an outfit to wear and all that crap.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
sad.
It was tough.
Yeah.
So were you already, did you have kids
I was
already?
pregnant, right.
You were pregnant with Mark?
I don't know. I don't
Oh,
remember.
one of them.
Wasn't I always?
Well, it would have been a lot easier for you
Must
to go
have been
get
Mark, because there was only Mark and Sharon, and Larry was a baby when she died.
Yeah.
Larry was like 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
How weird that your mother was pregnant almost at the same time you were.
Yeah.
But not unheard of, because Aunt Claire was only like 3 years older than you too. So.
She is 3 years older than me, right?
So then your mother's, oh well, no, Auntie Cat didn't have any kids. I was wondering if one of your mother's sisters had children when your grandmother was pregnant with Claire.
Or Helen.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, my grandmother was an old lady, because my mother and Auntie Cat were at the beginning of the of the siblings, and Claire and Aunt Helen were at the end, and all the 5 boys were in the middle.
Oh,
So, and Aunt Claire was 3 years older when my grandfather died. 3 years old.
I was gonna say, she was always 3 years older. He was 3 years
I
older.
think maybe I was 3 years old because she was, maybe she was 6. I don't know, because I can remember him.
You can remember Nanny's husband?
Yeah,
And what was his name?
Granddaddy,
Oh, Granddaddy.
Charles Henry Noonan.
So did he come over from Ireland himself?
No, he was born in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. And he was born, wait a minute, he was not born in Fitchburg. He grew up in Fitchburg. He was born on the boat coming over.
Oh my God.
wow.
Yeah,
So what citizen was he?
American.
So what about Nanny? She must
She
have
was
come
born
over.
in Ireland. She came over when she was a teenager.
So when she got out of the orphanage,
The convent.
whatever we want to call it, yeah, one of those things.
And I don't know where she came, whether she came to Connecticut or Boston, I have no idea.
Okay,
don't
so
know.
she met him here. She
Yeah,
met
she must have.
Charles here. Oh.
So we were talking the other day, you were saying that she must have had a very strict upbringing in the convent.
She
because
did.
She kind of handed that down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even like when I was growing up, we couldn't say shut up. We had to say be quiet. You know, you couldn't raise your voice. You didn't raise your voice.
Mm.
You see how saintly I am?
There's enough lightning outside. And that passed down to your mother, that you were
Right.
saying your mother was very strict.
Right. And she said that she was not as strict as Nanny was with her.
Mhm.
My grandfather had a razor strap. You guys don't know what that is, but it was like a leather belt that hung from a nail in the bathroom.
Mhm.
And they used to have these straight razors and they'd sharpen them up. They were called razor straps.
Mhm.
And he had that hanging. I guess that that's what they hit the kids with when they were misbehaved.
So,
But I know one time I squealed about Claire doing something, and Nanny hit her with the razor strap,
really?
and she had welts on her legs, so I never squealed on her again.
Wow.
Yeah, I felt bad that time, because I think I sort of added on to it.
Yes, well, we heard you squealed on your mother to your grandmother too.
Yes, I did.
And you got her in trouble, but I guess she didn't whip her when she was an adult.
No, I
so.
couldn't whip her.
Well, tell us about the day you went to Baldwin's Pond and it was too
Well, we
hot
used to
and
go
you-
swimming to Baldwin's Pond all the time, and it's like 1.5 miles from our house on Marjorie Street. And one day my mother, and it was a whole group, the whole East Side gang of kids would go all walk in a group down Gravel Street. It was a dirt road. And down Gravel Street and down North Wall to Baldwin's. And one day she said that I couldn't go because it was too hot. And I, had a tantrum, but she still wouldn't let me go. So I went to the phone, I called up Nanny. And I said, Nanny, she won't let me go swimming down to Baldwin's. And Nanny says, let me talk to her. So my mother gets on the phone. Yeah. And she hangs up and she says, go. So she really ruled the roost, and everybody respected older people in those days.
Mhm.
They were the bosses, I guess.
Didn't she die right around the time your mother did?
My mother died, and then in the months before you were born, I don't like to do it in this.
No,
No,
okay,
no.
okay, never mind.
Well, what I
never mind.
wanted to talk about was, tell us about the time you were on Liberty Street and you knew that Nanny was at your house.
Oh, I was up at my friend Clara Berry's. She was halfway up Liberty Street, And Liberty Street was a dirt road too.
Okay.
And we were up there playing, and all of a sudden I hear, "Oh!" And I said, "Oh, my grandmother's at my house sneezing."
Oh, you're kidding. Really?
So you can hear her sneeze up Liberty
Oh
Hill.
my God.
I gotta go home. So I went home, and she was there.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, she didn't live that far from you anyway. Oh, no, you said Warren Street she lived
I
on.
can't remember where
Yeah.
Warren Street was actually.
Do you remember where City Park is?
No, is
Do
that
you remember
near
Britannia Street?
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
Okay,
pretty far.
Britannia Street is here, Sherman Avenue is here,
Mhm.
and Warren Street is here, and it goes all the way down to where City Park and Brookside Park,
Okay.
and it ended at Britannia Street.
Now, is that where
And the-
everybody grew up?
I beg your pardon?
Is that where all the uncles and aunts grew up?
Yes,
That house?
yes, 130 Warren Street.
Was it a three-family house?
It was a two-family house when I was young, only because Auntie Cat lived up there
Oh.
on the second story. But I imagine when they were growing up, it was all one family.
Hmm.
But I'm assuming that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So tell us about Grandpa Ferrari. Tell us about how his father owned all that property and what he did with it on Parkway
Right,
Place,
my grandfather owned 808 East Main Street, which is now where Granby's, or Danby's gas station is, in Parkway Place,
Mhm.
both sides.
Mhm.
And he owned from East Main Street all the way back to where the high school is now.
I thought that was your uncle.
No, my
It was
grandfather.
grandfather.
And my
Oh.
Uncle Mickey, and they had the East Side Tavern. The house was there where the gas station is now.
Uh-huh.
And the East Side Tavern, which later was Macenti's,
Yeah,
that
I
you know,
remember that, yeah.
that was their tavern.
Oh.
And they ran the tavern, my grandfather and my uncle.
Mhm.
And,
Did he own over near where the Holiday Inn is too? Or am I all messed up there? The top of
The
Parkway
Holiday-
Place is Holiday Inn, right?
Mhm.
the top of Holiday Place, the inn is Danby's.
Yeah, and Holiday Inn, right? Parkway Place, Danby's, and then Holiday
Wait a
Inn's
minute,
on the other side?
I'm getting mixed up.
Me
That's
too.
okay if you're looking
Maybe.
towards his name.
Right, if you're looking towards East Main.
Because there used to be, at the end where the end of those first lots are on Parkway Place, it used to be a little street, was called Robert Street. And you went down there, another dirt road, you went down there, and there was a cemetery down there, and it ended up on B Street.
Really?
wow.
Wow.
But
That
now,
was a pretty
That's
long dirt
fun,
road then.
Yeah.
but now there's I think, who is it that used to live down in there? Susan, there's houses down there now, I forget what they call them. Is it Belvedere Drive?
Maybe.
I think so.
Maybe. Yeah, because then that's 91, it's not 91, is it 95 or?
No, 91 is behind all that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's
91 is
and-
further down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then B Street is actually over farther now.
It's past
On
the
the other
highway.
side
Yeah.
of 91.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Because when we used to go, these Amen brothers lived on Horton Avenue,
Mhm.
and they made a bobsled for the neighborhood kids. And we would go up at the top of Liberty Hill in the winter, go down Liberty Hill, cross Gravel Street, through that yard that the black guy used to live in when you were young. I forget who used to live there. Down the back where the high school fields are, down all the way to the brook.
Wow,
So we would make
Alright.
one trip a night.
I bet you
And
did.
coming back, we'd stop at my house, go over to my house, and my mother would make us hot cocoa and grilled cheese sandwiches.
Nice.
nice.
Yeah,
That's fun.
yeah, it was fun.
Wow.
Mm. You just
And
gotta
that
make sure
beat-
you cross gravel at the right moment.
It was a dirt road and hardly, if a car was ever coming, we would have been a goner, but no cars ever went. no houses. There was Shipwrecks on the corner, and who lived in Dodge's house? Dodge's house was there, and Ness's house was there.
Oh,
Then there was nothing until you got past where Liberty Street is. Do you guys remember when that great big huge rock was in the front yard next to the high school? A great big rock,
I
it was
can
about as big
remember
as a
a rock.
room.
Kind
I
of
thought they
remember.
put like
And
the Vietnam Memorial on that rock, didn't they? Is
I
that
think it's
now?
gone now. But there was a huge rock there in this front yard, and that was, we used to call it Old Lady Williams. I don't know if she was an old maid or what. And that was the first house after that, after Ness's.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, there was no houses till way down on the left was, I can't think of their name right now, but there weren't very many
So
houses.
that Orozco's wasn't there
No.
till later.
No, nothing. Nothing at all.
Well, there wouldn't have been that development and stuff.
No, that was on the right, yeah,
Yeah.
that was much later.
Mhm.
Yeah, and where, those apartments are across from the high school now and everything.
Yeah,
That was all swamp. We call that the
Yeah.
swamp.
Yep.
I remember
We spent the
that being
winter
swamp.
there ice skating.
Yeah.
So
Always
who
kids.
did you grow up with? I mean, who did you play with?
There weren't too many kids.
Yes, I
There were
thought.
no kids on Marjorie Street. There was
Right.
just our two houses, and old Mrs. Manning and her bachelor son lived next to us. There were no kids. So the only kids we saw were from Horton Avenue.
Mhm.
And,
Eleanor?
yeah.
You grew up with
No, she
Ellen?
was not, no, she was not, nobody was ever good enough. Basically, nobody, but.
To
And,
play with
and
you?
like I said, every day, we would go to my grandmother's anyway.
So you're in a bubble, kind of.
But sort of. I mean, you knew them and you played with them. We went to the swamp to go ice skating and stuff. And every year,
Yeah, see, we did the same thing.
and every year when it was got cold enough, they take the fattest kid,
Mm.
which and throw
And cook him.
and throw him
Burn the
on
pit.
the ice.
Throw him on the ice.
His name was Thorpe.
Okay. And what was the name of that game?
To see if the ice was safe.
And
And
so
if he
was
didn't
okay.
crack the ice, we were all set.
Yeah, so what if he did?
We didn't go on it yet.
This is
So
a
he
good
was
example of
okay.
in comparison.
I know, so
And
you
we
did
all
this
had,
every year?
we all had played hockey
Yeah,
with sticks that we had cut from trees and stuff and rocks.
mhm,
And Uncle Terry was taking out Aunt Helen at the time. And he saw that, so he bought me a hockey stick and a puck. So you
Wow.
could see I was
So
the
good.
most popular kid on the swamp
Yeah.
because I had a hockey stick and a puck.
Whoa,
Speaking of being able to play hockey, would you tell the story of your car accident?
I was in third grade,
What year was it?
whatever year that was.
1938? Well, you would
was
have been
that
about
the
7.
same year as the hurricane? When you had your
It could have been, I have
accident?
no idea.
Cause it had, if you're in third grade, how old are you, 8 or 9?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it must have been close.
And it was
Another
winter
year.
time.
Yeah, quite a year.
And we had gone somewhere with my father in the car. And in the front seat was my father and me and my son Jackie DiGiovanni.
Your son?
I mean, my cousin.
Yeah, okay.
And so anyway, my father pulled over to where Tiezzi's was, you know Tiezzi's. Pulled over there to let the cars go by, and then goes to turn to go into my grandfather's, and some guy came along evidently without any lights on, hit us broadside, and the car went over sideways. In those days, the cars had handles like that. They didn't have handles that you pull. They had these kind of handles. And my ski pants got caught on the handle. So the car landed on me, on my leg. So the next thing I know, there's a whole bunch of men pushing the car up, straightening it up, and one of the priest guys, that was where they owned Augie's gas station, was
Mhm.
Priest's.
Mhm.
And he carried me over to my grandmother's. So that was the winter time, and I never went back to school until the school was almost over that year.
Mm.
But they got me papers to study and stuff, and every day the doctor came and did massage my leg and stuff, put stuff on there.
Could you walk?
I couldn't walk for a while, but then I did, and then my grandmother took me to some doctor, and he looked at me and put me on this table upside down and backwards and all this, and he said I would never walk straight again, I would always limp.
The
But I
right
did.
knee, right?
Huh?
Your right leg or your left leg?
I think it was this leg.
And
I'm not
just
sure,
for
I
the
don't
record,
remember.
You have never limped.
Yeah, that's
So-
right.
And when I was able to go back to school, then every day after school I had to walk down to Dr. Mills's office, which was right next door to Ferry's funeral home,
Mm-hmm.
and go in there so he could do my leg.
Walking there from St. Rose?
Yeah, from St. Rose.
And then you walked home?
Then I would walk to the depot, the bus depot,
Mm-hmm.
by the trains there, and take the bus home.
Hmm. So there must have been that Woolworths down there at that time. I remember it was still there. when I
Woolworths,
was-
Kresge's,
Yeah.
and we used to call it the 5 and 10. I don't know if that was Woolworths or not.
Was that the one on the corner there that had the fountain?
On the corner was Wayland's,
It was called something else, I think, when we were growing up.
BJ's.
No.
I don't
Wasn't
remember.
there a store?
I remember Woolworths.
Maybe it was
WT Grant.
W.T.
Oh,
Grant.
right. Yeah,
W.T.
yeah,
Grant
right.
was on West Main Street.
Mhm.
That's right. I remember that place. And there was that traffic tower down there. That
Oh,
very
yeah.
old-fashioned, the guy standing up in the
Yeah.
tower. Yeah. And what about Les's? When did he go in there?
I
Much
think,
later?
well, he was around by the time that you guys were young,
Yeah,
but he
but
wasn't
not
there.
before that? Oh,
No. He was a good guy. He would,
yeah.
if you told him you were going to visit someone in the hospital, he
Mhm.
would give you a super duper milkshake or whatever it was.
He really was
that you were
a very
getting.
sweet man.
Yeah,
He was.
You
He was,
always
and
got in
everybody
his
loved
line,
him.
not his wife's line. Because she would give you this scrawny little ice cream cone.
No, he was very, very generous.
Yes, he was.
So moving forward,
Yes,
now you were taught piano
yes.
by whom?
Miss Hall, I think her name was, on Cottage Street.
Oh, I
For
thought it
2 years I took lessons.
So you had to walk there? Or did she
Yeah.
come to your house?
No, on Cottage Street.
Why did I
Not
think
too-
Grandpa Wrinn gave you lessons?
You didn't
The only
even know
lessons
him.
Grandpa
No, I
Grandpa
know, but
Wrinn.
that's how I'm trying to figure out how she met Danny.
Oh, we're working up to that?
Oh,
Yes,
Grandpa-
we are, I'm doing
Alright.
chronological.
I see.
From the time
You're skipping
From the
over.
time
Alright,
I
we'll
was,
stop then,
from the
alright.
time
No,
I was in
okay.
4th grade, Grandpa Wrinn used to come to the school and pick out kids to be in his choirs.
Oh.
And he had a children's choir and so on up as you got older.
Oh.
So from the time I was in 4th grade, I was in a choir
Oh.
at church and singing.
So he knew you.
No, I never knew he had another son.
Oh.
Until one day I went there for my lesson, my music lesson.
Voice?
Yes. And this guy I didn't know answered the door. Says, hello. I says, who are you? He says, I'm Junie. Who's Junie? You know.
Mhm.
So then Mr. Wrinn, when I went in for my lesson, he says, so you met my son? I said, yeah. I didn't even know you had another son, because I thought Greg was pretty neat.
Yeah,
You
he's a
know.
good-looking man.
And so he said, which one do you think is better looking? I said, this one. So then he had probably the original what do you call it, hi-fi. He had in the living room there, he had this big wooden thing that went the whole wall that gave out this wonderful sound.
Mhm.
And he sold it all to buy my engagement ring.
Who did, Daddy?
Yeah,
Oh. He used to make records there too, 78s, didn't he?
I don't know.
I remember
But
seeing them.
he could play any instrument at all.
So then Daddy had like blondish brown
Light brown, very light brown, golden brown.
hair with those,
Almost like Kevin's.
okay, with blue eyes. I'm trying to get the
Very
coloring.
blue
Because
eyes.
Greg had the dark hair and the blue eyes.
He had the black hair
So
and the
that's
blue
where our
eyes.
coloring was
Right.
coming from with that line.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
Greg and Evelyn had the black hair and the blue eyes.
okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
So back to the Italians. We
Oh,
didn't
yes,
get this
excuse me,
far
yeah.
along. So your grandfather owned that land.
Oh, yeah.
And when did he sell that?
My grandfather,
Yeah.
when my grandmother died, like I told you, my grandmother
After
Ferrari,
surgery.
she was at surgery.
You didn't-
and
okay.
Oh, you
didn't sell
didn't
that.
have to say that, how that happened.
I don't need to say that.
Yes,
No, you do.
Oh,
Wow.
she was being operated on for gallstones, and they didn't realize that she had diabetes,
Mm.
and so she died.
And how old was she?
I think she was 56.
So how old were you?
I don't know, I was a child.
Just a kid?
I don't remember her dying. I can remember her, you know, I used to be able to walk over there. I was just a tiny little kid, but I used to be able to walk down Marjorie Street. There was a path. I could go that way. There was a path that cut across the lot at the end of the street.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went, I didn't have to hit East Main at all. I went from there to the back door of my grandma. Or I could go over the stone wall and there was a path and go up that way.
Mm-hmm.
And halfway up, they had on the, they had some swamp grass and stuff like that with a board on it so that you could go teeter-totter on your way up and try that and then keep going.
So you just went up there anytime you wanted to?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you,
and she used to give me, you know, I remember her giving me lunch all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to always bring me over. She always had geraniums on her window.
Mm-hmm.
And she would make me go like this. And I don't know if I understood her. I know she didn't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I understood her or whether it was just pantomime. I have no idea. But I think I understood her.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I know she used to make her spaghetti there. And she used to make scacciata.
What's that?
Scacciata is, it was bread dough, and she cut up potatoes and onions in it, and then she would fold it over, almost like a calzone,
Mm-hmm.
and do it like this, and then put olive oil on the top and bake it. It's delicious.
No wonder why you went there for lunch. I would too.
And then I remember, like, every meal, they had chicken soup first.
Oh.
And so the bowl of chicken soup, my grandfather would sit down, she'd be there, and she'd put me down, and my grandfather go with his soup, and so I was doing this with the soup, and she's saying, no, Lorena. I can remember her calling me Lorena, and I said, well, Grandpa's doing it. She says, he's got to do that to get it through his mustache. So that's what I remember about her.
That's nice.
Oh, that's
And I
nice.
remember she used to make me dolls out of, because they would get feed sacks, chicken feed,
Mm-hmm.
and they always had these patterns on them. You could cut them up and sew them up, and they'd be dolls and things like that. Yeah.
So,
So after she died,
mm-hmm.
my grandfather sold the property for $8,000
Oh my Lord.
from all of Parkway Place.
Mm.
Both
Who did he sell
sides.
it to? A developer?
I think he
From
sold it to
Florida?
Massente's.
Oh.
And he went to Italy to be the great I am.
Oh God, yeah.
So spent the 8,000 came back.
And where did that,
Where was your grandmother? This was after
She was
she
dead.
died?
After
Oh.
she died, he sold the
He
place.
did all that. Oh.
Yeah. So he came back and then he lived with us for a while,
Which is,
maybe a year or so.
which is why she ended up on the couch. You know how she said she always slept on the couch?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
why your grandfather
Yeah, I had
went
to
in
give
your
up my
room?
bedroom because by then
Ah.
Louis was born. So my grandfather and Louis shared the bedroom
Oh,
and I had the couch.
right.
And then my grandfather moved down with Aunt Connie,
That was
Oh.
his sister.
His
Right.
daughter.
his daughter.
Oh, his daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honey was, oh, yes, that's
Yeah.
right. That was his daughter.
Yeah.
Can
So
we,
what you, wait, just remember this one thing about the fava beans that he used to do
oh,
with you when
About
you
the
were
what?
little. The fava beans with the
Oh yeah,
curly-
he used to evidently grow the fava, and he would show me with the beans. He would make a little elephant or cow or something with the beans and put toothpicks in.
Yeah, and they had the curly thing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They had that on them. And
Yeah.
That was your pig.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that was
oh,
cute.
that's cool.
Was it when you were really tiny? You must have been really
I
pretty
must have
small.
been because
You all
I
had-
think I was 9 years old when he died. So
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm talking when I was small.
Yeah.
I can
5,
remember
6.
being over there with Connie and them and eating snails
Ugh.
with a safety pin, stick them in the thing.
These are just snails that were out in the garden?
No, I don't know where, they cooked them. I don't know where they got them from, they cooked them. But they used to cook dandelions too, and
Yeah.
I ate
People
those.
do that now, yeah.
Yeah,
we make a lot of stuff out of dandelions.
So
yeah.
what about your chickens? You always had
They always
chickens
had
in your
chickens.
yard?
And I'll tell you something, on Parkway Place, you know where that ambulance thing
Hunters?
was on Parkway Place? That was originally my grandfather's chicken coop.
Wow.
You could still see the shape of it.
Wow,
Yeah,
so it's all the way down there.
yeah.
So that's when he had that land, he farmed it?
Oh, yeah, he had a big garden, and they had like probably about where Parkway Place is, the road right now, or maybe a little bit over further, they had a stand and they had the vegetables there,
Oh.
and they would sell them in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they made their living?
That in the tavern, I guess.
Oh. Tell about the tavern and the hole in the floor.
Oh, yeah, well, upstairs from the tavern, there was a vase that sat on the floor like that, but if you pushed the vase over, there was a hole in the floor, so you could get down and look and see what was going on down in the tavern.
So wait, this was upstairs? Did they live up there?
Yeah,
Oh, and your father had his own tavern too?
no,
Was it- Well,
Oh,
what
he
was
had-
that? We used to say
he had a smoke shop,
we were going to Grandpa's store.
Yeah.
smoke shop.
So what is a smoke shop anyway?
He sold cigars, cigarettes.
I kind of remember like a big
Tables.
ballroom, and wasn't there like a big ballroom?
I remember
a
a
big
bar.
open room.
There was
It
a bar.
And a bar on one end.
You remember
yeah.
that bar? I
Yeah,
remember
I
that bar.
kind of remember that.
Yeah, but he just sold coffee.
And there were, okay, because there were tables where people could sit down, I
And
remember that.
then they played cards, they played setback. I used to go down and play setback with them,
Oh,
the guys.
Now,
The old guys.
not to flash back, but just to interject this story, we tell a story about the letter that we got from Grandpa's sister Mary about when they left your father and when they were first coming.
Yeah, when the family first came over from Italy, my father got rejected. They sent him back to Italy. And they said that he had something wrong with his eyes, so he couldn't enter the United States. And I never knew, what happened, or what happened to him, how did they know he was coming back, who got him, whatever. And then just several years ago, I got a letter from Maura that someone had sent to her,
Lori Carolina.
that my Aunt Mary, the oldest one of the siblings, said that that he had gone back and that my grandfather, that he wasn't returned from the United States. They wouldn't let him out of Palermo or something because he had, it sounds like conjunctivitis, pink eye.
And that's why he was rejected in the first place.
They
right?
wouldn't let him on the
Right,
boat.
'cause
he was
contagious.
Yeah,
Oh, so he never came over and went back by himself?
not till 3 years later, he came by himself.
Oh, I didn't know
And-
that part.
Right, and my grandfather met somebody on the road or in the streets of
Palermo.
Palermo, and the guy said he would watch my father until he would get accepted to go, and he'd put him on a boat. So my grandfather gave him money to take care of Roy, my father.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother in the United States was very worried about her child.
Yeah.
This is her first child.
Mhm.
She doesn't know what's wrong with him. She doesn't hear from him or anything else. And they finally wrote to the grandmother, which was Falconeri or something, in some other town, I've forgotten the name, asking her to see if she could go see what happened to Roy.
Because they were sending money to support him too.
Yeah, because they had given him money to be supported.
Yeah.
So they found him running around the streets of Palermo with a gang of little boys or
Oh.
something. And so she grabbed him and took him back to her house until she could get him on a boat to come back to the United States, or to come to the United States. So he never came over with the family.
Yeah. But 3 years later, he
But
made
he
it.
never told us that story,
Mhm.
and I never knew it.
But one of the things that I remember, the stories that you're telling me about Grandpa Ferrari, is that he was very loyal to the United States.
He loved the United States. He was in World War World War I, he was a prisoner of war.
Oh.
And he must have been just a kid. And he loved the Red Cross because he said the Red Cross brought him a fruitcake. And evidently they didn't have much to eat. And he said his head was bald because the Germans would pour some kind of liquid on their head and make all their hair go away. And in the end, his never grew back, it just stayed on his sides. And then when World War II started, he was very upset about that and everything. And he went and joined up World War II on his own.
Oh.
So I remember his picture was in the paper and they said, don't just read this story, do something about it on the record, you know.
So your parents were already married then, and you were,
Yeah, I
Like
was
that
a
in-
teenager, I was very embarrassed that he was going.
why? Why were you
Because I
embarrassed?
thought he was an old man.
How old was he?
He must have been 40-something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you always think your parents are old.
Well,
Yeah.
how much older than your mother was he?
15 years,
He was 15 years older than your mother?
I think, or 13 or 15, I forget. He was born in 1895 and she was born in 1908, so what's that?
1895.
8,
13.
13 years, so she was 19, so he was... I'm trying to figure out how
20,
old he was
34,
how old he
34.
was when mother was born.
Oh, when you were born, what did we figure out? The mother was 19 and he was
13.
13.
So he's 32?
Yeah.
Oh. So when you were born, if he was 32 when you were born and you were a teenager, he was well into his 40s then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, quite a patriotic man.
Well, I was in Pearl Harbor, I think I was in 8th grade. Either 7th or 8th
And that would
grade.
bring you, yeah, to about 12 or 13, something like that.
And we were in the war through my high school years. And I can remember being in when President Roosevelt said the war was over, I was in high school.
Mm-hmm. So were people celebrating it everywhere?
Everybody went downtown, people were running around kissing everybody and yelling and happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I have to laugh when they say we're at war now, because during that war, everybody had their own tinfoil ball from gum and stuff because everything was for the war effort. I've told you kids a story about the First National that was on East Main Street, and they had a big sign when you went in the door, ladies, please bring your fat cans to the rear of the store. They suggested that everybody save their fat for whatever you need it to make bullets and guns and stuff.
Really? What kind of, like bacon fat?
Yeah.
Bacon fat to make bullets out of?
They make ammunition.
They probably use it to
I think
come
it's-
through
I
the
think
machines
it's- Oh, to grease it.
lubricate Yeah.
No, I don't know. They make bullets with it or something.
Really?
Bullets out of blubber? Blubber
I
bullets?
don't know what they make it out of, but they needed it. And they had, and then if any butter came to town, the whole town, it was like a party line. Everybody'd run to growers, it's got butter, and you go down, no such thing as saying, I'll take a pound of butter. They'd have these big wheels of butter, and they just chop off a piece and give it whatever
Wow.
size piece you got, and glad to get it. Everything was rationed, you had shoes. My mother made him go barefoot from the time that it first got warm till it got cold, because he wore out not only his ration, but mine and Lewis's, because he was rough on shoes.
Wow.
So he could
And
go to
our
school
clothes were
barefoot
rationed.
too?
No, at home.
Oh, okay.
And then the nuns must have thought I was very responsible because I had their ration books, and they would send me up to the First National during the noon hour and get stuff they needed. And I'd have to have their ration books, so I knew what all their real names were.
Oh, the nuns?
Yeah,
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Did they have to pay for that stuff?
yeah. What do you mean, pay for what?
I
The
mean, you get
groceries?
rationed a certain amount, but did you have to pay for it? too?
Everybody was issued a coupon book, and like you were allowed one ration of butter, 2 pairs of
Right,
shoes.
but did you have to pay for it too?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
oh, yeah.
Hmm.
And then you just had to save everything, and then at night, you had to cover up your windows. Nothing could show, no light whatsoever could show from the outside. And old Mr. Ness, he would just be there, he would not close his things, and everybody hated him because he was German anyway. And he'd be there, the only light in sight, everything else would be pitch dark, and he'd be ironing his clothes. And they changed the time. They changed to the time to war saving time or something. They put the clocks ahead 2 hours because they encouraged everyone to have a victory garden. So anybody could go like to the outskirts of town and plant a garden so you could have food, extra food to eat if you didn't have
Wow.
enough.
Which means that you had time in the morning to go, you mean?
No, in the afternoon, it'd stay dark till 9:30 at night.
Ah. And didn't you go to school different hours because of that too?
Well, no, our high school, when you were a sophomore, you went in the afternoon from 12:25 till 5:10 in the afternoon. And then when you were a junior and senior, you went to school from 12:30, from 8:45 until 12:25. So the 2 classes would be getting out and the 1 class would be going in at the same time.
So how do you think your childhood was better or different or basically the same than our childhood, or compared to the newer childhoods, you know? Do you think it was?
I think it was a world of difference because, I mean, we were outside when we would go down to the beach for the weekends before the war. And my father, we had a box trailer, and we'd go down there and our parents would say, get out to the beach, don't come back till it's time to eat.
You
you know?
basically told us
Yeah,
that.
we
too.
did that.
Don't come
Yeah.
home till the streetlights come
So
on.
you-
Right.
And then we tried to
Right.
come home and you wouldn't let us.
And we'd play on the beach, we'd go in the water, and everything all day long, all day long. And then they closed Hammonasset during World War II because it was a practice field for bombers, and they used to drop sand bombs on Hammonasset, and that was why Nanny Noonan bought the first cottage. And when she bought the first cottage, she told Louis, Roy, Matt, and I that if anybody asked us our name, we had to say it was Noonan, because they didn't want any Italians there. It was still very presidential.
Now, why did she buy it? Because they were bombing there?
She bought it because everybody loved the beach, and the beach was no longer available. You couldn't go because it was closed.
Oh, so the prices were good to buy a cottage, is that?
Well, she had money.
She probably just figured that they would get better then, I guess. I was just wondering what was the
Well,
thinking.
she wanted to let them enjoy the beach, but there was nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So
And
if you
then
have the
too,
money-
Uncle Joe and Uncle Franny and Uncle Matt, they were all in the service. And any serviceman, the government would send allotments home to their families. So maybe that's what she bought it with, I don't know.
Oh.
So which was the original? Did we ever see it? Was it Uncle Joe's cottage or whatever
No,
happened to that?
Nanny Noonan bought the Playtime, which was a cottage. And next door to that, she bought an empty lot. And I don't think she bought it at the same time, she bought it later on. And then when the war was over, they were selling everything connected with the army, that, you know, barracks and everything. So she bought 2 barracks and put them up, one on top of the other, in the lot next to the Playtime, which turned into the Shamrock. And that she had been saving the allotments from Uncle Joe, and she said that was his cottage.